You know, I thought I'd take you back just a minute to talk about something that's very much on my mind. I remember I had hoped to be sworn in on January 20th, 2017 as America's CIA director, right a few hours after President Trump's inauguration. But Senator Wyden had a different idea about timeline. And so I was held up on that Friday. But I had asked the president to come out to CIA headquarters on Saturday morning, out to Langley. So when I showed up there that day and the president showed up there that day, I was still the congressman from the 4th District of Kansas, hoping that I could scrounge 51 votes on Monday. I mentioned that because I will never forget what President Trump was focused on. Literally less than 24 hours after he had been sworn in, he was sitting with me and the senior counterterrorism team at the CIA. And he said three things. He said, I'm going to give you everything you need to do. I'm going to give you the authorities you need to conduct this campaign in a way that will keep Americans safe. I want to make sure that we destroy the caliphate, and I want to get the guy who's the leader of ISIS. And we worked for 2.5 years. The team was fantastic. The work that was done will absolutely make an important contribution to America's national security. The president led that effort. He was committed to it. He supported everything that I did, and then my successor, Director Haspel, and then the amazing work of the Department of Defense and all the teams that brought Baghdadi to eternal justice. I hope you all know. I hope you all know when you get a chance to see someone who's in uniform or someone who's an intelligence officer, you wouldn't know. There's actually some of you all sitting out here tonight. You wouldn't know. Please thank them. It was amazing work that they did and important. There's still much work to do. The threat from radical Islamic extremism certainly is not gone. But the work that was done to lead that shows the excellence, the uniqueness, and to the point that was mentioned earlier, the exceptionalism that we have here in the United States of America. You know, I think it's true that we can think long about history. Half a century ago, your founder charged your institution to think about the future in unconventional ways. President Trump, when he selected me to be the director of the CIA, was certainly thinking about something unconventional. Who would have predicted that this kid from Southern California would have this amazing privilege? He also knew, Herman knew, that in the interest of furthering and protecting this great and noble experience that we call the United States of America, that there was no higher mission than to getting that right. And it's why I thought I'd focus in the few minutes today before I take some questions. I thought I'd focus on something that is central to what the Trump administration is working on, that is different from previous administrations. That's not political. We have taken on the challenge from the People's Republic of China in a way that the time is calling for. Look, we have a long cherished tradition of friendship with the Chinese people. We continue to do so today. We have a Chinese American community here in America that we love and treasure. I've known them through business and personal ties. I've known many of them. But I must say that the communist government in China today is not the same as the people of China. They're reaching for and using methods that have created challenges for the United States and for the world. And we collectively, all of us, need to confront these challenges from the PRC head on and along each of the many facets. There are many opportunities to be sure, but it is no longer realistic to ignore the fundamental differences between our two systems and the impact that those two systems have, the differences in those systems have on American national security. This is a departure for sure, might be viewed as unconventional. It's not what you've heard from leaders for the last 2 decades plus. Frankly, we've been slow to see the risk of China, the risk that it poses to American national security, because we wanted friendship with the People's Republic from the very start, and because we, as Americans, always continue to hope for that. But frankly, in our efforts to achieve this goal, we accommodated and encouraged China's rise for decades, even when that rise was at the expense of American values, Western democracy and security, and good common sense. We downgraded our relationship with our longtime friend Taiwan on the condition that the Taiwan question would be resolved peacefully to normalize relations with Beijing. We all too often shied away from talking directly about the human rights issues there and American values when they came into conflict. And we downplayed ideological differences even after Tiananmen Square massacre and other significant human rights abuses. We encouraged China's membership in the World Trade Organization and other international organizations, premised on their commitment to adopt market reforms and abide by the rules of those organizations. And all too often, China never followed through. We hesitated and did far less than we should have when China threatened its neighbors like Vietnam and like the Philippines, and when they claimed the entire South China Sea. Frankly, we did an awful lot that accommodated China's rise in the hope that Communist China would become more free, more market-driven, and ultimately, hopefully, more democratic. And we did this for a long time. There's another reason we adopted these policies. We didn't realize how China was evolving. Frankly, the American people didn't get the full story. I've talked to so many business leaders. U.S. companies that invested heavily in China were forced to comply with China's terms. This includes just about any topic that the Chinese Communist Party deemed controversial. Beijing's intransigence creates a permanent class of China lobbyists in the United States. Their primary job is to sell access to Chinese leaders and connect business partners. And frankly, whenever there was a dispute or tension in a relationship, many of our scholars blamed the United States for misrepresenting the nature of the Chinese Communist Party. Meanwhile, Beijing controlled and limited access to our diplomats, journalists, and academics when they were traveling to mainland China. They still do that today. If you saw the difference in how Chinese diplomats are treated and how American diplomats and the access they have, you too would find the absence of reciprocity deeply inconsistent with American values. And China's state-run media and government spokespeople filled the gaps, routinely maligning American intentions and policy objectives. They still do that today. 所以我好愿意让那小蚂蚁变成那串串爱